Starting. And we are live. Hey, everybody, welcome to the 24 Marketing Mastermind. I hope everybody's doing well. So glad to see everybody here. I can already see people chatting. Oh, well, yeah, okay, that's Katie there. And if you are watching, just say hi in the chat, and we'd like to see you there. But so we've got a really interesting subject today we want to talk about. But before we get on to that, let's find out how everybody's week was. And let's start with Pops over there. Pops, how are you doing, sir? How's things going there?
Doing great, Dave. Doing great. A good week. I worked my final day on Saturday for on-the-clock type stuff again. So like my fourth retirement. So that's really good. And I don't anticipate working on the clock for anybody ever again. So it's fantastic. And we're working hard towards our goal of leaving town on about the 4th of May. So.
Nice. I'm really quite envious of you guys picking up and leaving, and that's going to be a whole adventure, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, it will be.
With that being said, so I think we'll go over to the person connected to you the most, and that's Miss Katie Stage. Katie on stage, how are you doing, madam?
Fantastic, super fantastical. Thanks for asking, Dave. I know that would make you smile. It is rainy and dreary, but it's Monday, and I say but it's Monday because TGIM, thank God it's Monday, because who doesn't love the 24-hour marketing show? Seriously, this is one of the shows that got my start online. So for those of you who are watching and never seen Dave before, never seen me before, never seen Jamie before, just checking, never seen Pops before, this is the place to be. You're in the right place. So I'm going to go ahead and put that shameless plug in there right now and say, click on that yellow button that's right below this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can reach out to us and see what we're doing. That's what I'm saying. I was just thinking about it. I was just reminiscing on how awesome the show is.
Okay, always a pleasure hearing from you. And we have Mr. Jamie Shaw. I love saying that name. I swear, if one day I get on stage, I'm just going to say that name out loud because I can. Such a show name. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. We started off the week on Saturday with the workshop, and that was simply mind-boggling. And then today I got to play in the rain and got to play in traffic, so I've had an interesting start to the week. So.
Yeah, it's been, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I missed the workshop on Saturday. I wasn't able to get there because I had an appointment the day after, and otherwise I'm a zombie. Because, man, that workshop takes a lot out of you. And I missed you guys, I'll be honest. I kept on waking up thinking, geez, I should be on this thing, and I want to click on the button so badly, but I knew I had to be disciplined and not do it. But I'm going to be there next week for sure. Man, it's just been so interesting for me because today has been one of those days. I cannot seem to find out what it is, all right? But it's just been one of those days. It's just been slow. It's been awkward. It's been weird. A whole bunch of stuff has come up. I had to fix up a washing machine today, a dishwasher. Actually, get a pipe all fixed up. Just been one thing after another, but I still managed to get my marketing done today. I still managed to get my blog done today, which is super exciting. I think it's because it's just part of what I do. I can't seem to not go through the day without getting some form of marketing done. And I suppose that's the beauty of being around people who are also full of habits, is they tend to pick up these habits as well. So I want to also say hello to, we have Mr. Bob Nevin on here. We have Joe Whistler. We have Colleen. We have Joe McKenzie. For those of you who don't know who Joe McKenzie is, I met Joe in New York when I was visiting Katie and Pops up there. Joe actually found me at the airport. It was quite interesting because he yelled my name, and man, he's got a big booming voice, and he was yelling out loud, and I went outside for a cigarette back then when I was smoking, and he actually found me. It was like one of those needle in a haystack moments. So Joe, good to see you here, buddy. And today we've got a very interesting subject because I know that it's something that every single one of us have gone through. We do every single day, and it really is up to us to counter punch this particular thing that we're talking about. And I haven't said what we're talking about yet because I want to hand it over to the man who really knows a lot about the subject and somebody who's really overcome a lot because he's had to go through this in his business. And so I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Jamie. Jamie, if you wouldn't mind taking over from here and talk about the subject, which I know you just started to speak of. Go, everybody, take over.
Sure. Tonight I was going to talk about how your inner dialogue and your words may be sabotaging your business. And what I mean by your inner dialogue is your self-talk, because we always find ourselves saying that I'm afraid to make a video, or I'm overwhelmed with all the information, or I'm confused about what to do next. And we talk to ourselves and tell ourselves as many excuses as our brain can come up with, because that's how our brain protects us from the things that we're afraid of, or not afraid of, but that is outside of our comfort zone. So there's many different techniques that you can use to change this inner dialogue, but the main thing is to recognize the things that you're telling yourself, and if you speak them words, like one of our topics on the workshop Saturday was about blocks. So one of your blocks may be that I'm not enough, and you need to write that down and tell yourself that you are enough, because you are. God made us a perfect being when we were born, and we learned to crawl for the first time, and that attitude we had when we were learning to crawl, we never gave up. Then we learned how to walk, and as we learned how to walk, we would get up and take a few steps and fall and bust our butts, and then we get right back up and do it again, and we continued to do it. We never gave up, and that was the kind of attitude we had as we grown up. Then we go into grade school, and our teachers start molding us and programming our minds to what's right and what's wrong. And then as we grow into teens and adolescence, our teachers and our parents and people all contribute to our programming of our mind. And some of the things they tell us that we can't do, we grow up in life believing that we can't do. Then the whole goal of school is to go to school, get good grades, go to college, get good grades, and go out in the marketplace and work a good job, and then retire after 40 years and live the life of your dreams. And that was a society back in the industrial age. I mean, that was the thing to do, but we're not in the industrial age anymore. We're in the technology age, and the technology age, times have changed, and our school systems haven't caught up with that. They don't teach you how to be a marketer or run a business. They're still teaching you, history about what happened in World War II. Of course, those are important events in our history, but they're not important life challenges that help us grow as people. And I've been on this discovery of finding myself, and I found one of the things that I really enjoy doing, and that's teaching in the workshop. And through doing all the mindset training and motivational videos and stuff like that, I found my purpose in there, and my purpose is to teach people and educate people. And so the first lesson I want to teach you is start writing down when you have a negative thought about yourself. If you've ever seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, one of my mentors talks about this, the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Gene Wilder makes this statement when he thinks a negative thought or says a negative thought, he says, strike that, reverse that, and then he changes it to a positive statement or a positive thought. And that's the best way to start changing how you think about things. I listened to a TED talk on the way home, and it was about how our brain works. And our brain is a giant supercomputer. It can be reprogrammed, and you just have to take the action to reprogram it. And a lot of the action is your self-talk, learning how to talk to yourself, learning how to project your words out in there. Two of the most important words in the English language are I am, or two most powerful are I am. So if you catch yourself, well, I'm overwhelmed, you're telling yourself out in the world that you're overwhelmed. So you want to change that I am absorbing a lot of information. I need to slow down and take it in chunks. That's an easy way to get over the overwhelmed stage. Is don't take in so much information at once. The human brain takes in so many, I forgot how many bits of information per minute, and we cannot process all them. We only process about a third.
I think it's 10 trillion bits per second.
Yeah, and we only process maybe 100 a day or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's a very small amount that we process at one time. And I've listened to a lot of brain activity audios and stuff like that. If you're concentrating on, okay, for instance, I just bought a new truck. Okay, the new truck I bought is blue. And ever since I bought this new blue truck, all I see is blue trucks all over the place. And that's how your mind thinks. You don't notice things like that until you are made aware of it. If I tell you to concentrate on everything red in the room, then close your eyes, and then when you open your eyes back up, everything in the room that's red, you'll be able to point out. And I want to go back to the programming. You're programmed by your teachers, your peers, your parents as you're growing up. And your parents don't know any better. And as a parent, you're not given an instruction manual when you have a child. I mean, you learn by doing, and it's the same thing with marketing. You learn by doing, and it's the same thing with school. And you learn by doing repetitive motion or repetitive actions. When you go to college, you're doing the same thing. You're doing repetitive actions, and you learn a skill, and then you go into the marketplace and you do that skill. A lot of people fear, jumping into the home business industry because they don't have somebody to hold them accountable. They did a video today about accountability partners, and it was really eye-opening, because at the end of the day, who's going to hold you accountable? Only you are going to hold you accountable, like he said in the video. And there's many things, you go learn a skill in college, and then you go in the marketplace or in the workforce, corporate America, and you're expected to perform that skill when you're hired for a job. You go in and sell yourself in an interview, and you sell your skills. In the home business industry, you sell what you can provide for someone, what value you provide for somebody, what you can do for them. It doesn't matter what products, what services you're providing. What can you do for them at that moment in time is what you are providing. And for an employer, you're providing your skills, what you can do for them so they don't have to do the work. So there's a big transition there that people get stuck on, and transitioning from an employee to an employer, because you're used to being told what to do. Well, if you sit and think about it, when you go to your job every day, you go through the same routine. You drive to work, you sit down, you check your email, or you get a cup of coffee, you check your email, you interact with your coworkers, and then you start doing what you were trained to do. The boss don't have to come in and tell you to do it. You just do it. So when you go into the home business or network marketing field, you have to start doing what you do as an employee. You have to start going in, sitting down, writing that blog post, recording that video, doing that Facebook Live, doing that Facebook post. And nobody should have to tell you what to do or hold you accountable to do it. And when you feel that you can't make that video, that's your brain telling you and protecting you and self-talking to yourself that you can't do it, I'm afraid to do it. And that's where you need to go through the actions of that. I am capable of recording a video. I am a powerful video marketer. I am a powerful blogger. I am more than capable of doing this, and I don't need nobody to hold me accountable except myself. I always say that I have to get out of my own way. I'm the only person that gets in my own way, and I know everybody out there, you are the same. You have to get out of your own way because you're the only person holding you back. Ask me some questions, Dave.
I will say that, what you're saying, it's very, very true in the respect, my whole life, I've had this thing where, and I've had a stubborn streak in me my whole life. When somebody says to me, do something, or this is not possible, it's almost like my brain is trying to figure out how to do it immediately. You ever get those things when somebody says to you, oh, this can be done? Like, man, I've tried everything impossible that I can do. I'm not able to do this. There was this puzzle my dad brought home once, and maybe I'll bring it on the show one day. It's called the Horse and Bridle. You can't find it anywhere online, so don't try and look for it. Okay, it's called the Horse and Bridle, and it's a puzzle that can only be done one way. And I was 8 years old when my dad did this to me, and he said, this is almost, you can't even, I don't know how to do this. I completely forgotten about it. And as an 8-year-old kid, I've always had this thing in my mind about there is nothing that's going to defeat me. I'm going to get this done. And I sat down for a few hours trying to figure out this horse and bridle, and I finally did it. Now, when you see the actual puzzle, you'll see what I mean. It's not that. It's quite the challenge to actually figure out how to do it. But I've always had this thing inside of me where somebody said to me, you can't do something. And I've always, in my brain, decided I'm going to work the other way around. It's like if there was a problem and nobody could solve it, I was always looking for ways to actually get around that problem. Because I think I've had this within me my whole life. And I think everybody's had this to a degree, where we have, at some point in our life, been able to conquer just about everything we've given. But the moment we, as you say, go to school, get an education, learn about the things that are important to us, we get locked in these routines and we get locked in these ways of thinking. Like the only way that you can really achieve anything is to go to school, get an education, get a higher degree, get a better job, and then you'll only be able to be successful. It's almost like there are no levels that you can skip. But we know throughout history that there are people that couldn't read and have become millionaires because they've just found other ways to do things better. I don't know if anybody else wants to add to that.
No, I totally agree with that. Go ahead, Pops.
Well, I was going to ask you, have you found any programs out there that you can, you've listened to a lot of stuff, and there are some of the motivational speakers would have some things to help kind of hide the self-talk. In other words, you can repeat things instead of going mind blank or trying to go mind blank. You can try to, I don't know, like a mantra, and meditation can reduce some of that. Have you found any programs that help with that?
Yeah, I listened to a guy, his name is, I'm trying to pull it up real quick, David something, and he's an NLP and hypnosis expert, and I listen to him a lot, and he really makes a lot of sense, and he's got David Snyder is his name. I found him on YouTube, and I bought his course on NLP and how to train your brain to get rid of the negatives and the self-talk. And I've listened to a lot of his course, and that in the Deep Abyss, those are a couple of the courses that I've had that have helped change my mindset and stuff like that. And, I had a big epiphany Saturday night. I asked a question or Katie wanted to know if anybody had any blocks, you know, and I wasn't really saying that I had a block that I wasn't enough, but I put that question out there anyway. That way, you know, our audience in the workshop could see, you know, even though I'm a leader in the workshop, that I still have blocks occasionally, sometimes too. You know, I don't feel that I'm not enough. I know that I'm more than enough, and I learned that through the deep abyss and the workshop. You know, I say it all the time that, you know, Dave and Katie didn't make me this person. They just chipped away the rough edges, and I truly believe that. I believe we're born powerful people, but our programming gets changed at a young age, and then we spend our adult lives trying to fix that programming, and it comes with, you know, Dr. Vitale that you talked about, Pops, and I got the other guy's book around here, Dr. Joe Dispenza, I think it is. I got his book, and I've read it once, but I need to go back and read it again because I didn't absorb a lot of it. And then I'm reading that How to Win Friends and Influence People. I started it yesterday, started reading it, and it's a good read so far. I'm only in the first chapter, but you know, it's like, wow. You know, but you know, I've overcome a lot, and fixing the self-talk was one of my biggest things because, you know, I grew up thinking that I wasn't enough, that because I was always told that I would never amount to anything. And the epiphany I had Saturday when I asked that question, you know, Katie and you and a couple other people, I wonder what, you know, talked about certain things about how to fix that self-talk and stuff like that, and things to go and discover, you know, and it made me realize, you know, I'm not a failure in my life, and I have been more than enough. I put myself through college 3 times. I worked myself up in a company where I started at the bottom, and you know, and now I'm like the number 4 employee as far as managers goes. And you know, I've had a successful career, but I've come to the conclusion that I don't want my career. I want what we have here, you know. And it's taken me 48 years to realize that and come out of my shell and become this person that I know I was meant to be. And but it takes a lot of work to get to that point. You have to, you know, totally reprogram your brain to think, get the negative out of it. And I'm not saying I don't have no negativity in my life. You know, I deal with negative people every day, but I have to bite my tongue and walk away and scratch that and reverse that and think a positive thought. So, you know, in the old days, I would have been yelling and screaming and arguing with them. Today, you know, I bite my tongue and walk away, and I'd be a professional about it, you know, and that's how I got to be. 20 years ago, when I was in my 20s, I would have blew off the top and I would have chewed his rear end out, you know, and I'd have been off of it. But now I'm nice, calm, and collective, and I can actually teach somebody. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I was doing today at my job. I was teaching two new people how to do traffic counts. We have 2 crews that we do traffic data collection around the whole state of Illinois. And I was teaching these guys how to look at traffic and, you know, and decide where to put these traffic collectors and how to be safe out in traffic, especially when it's raining, how to have all your safety gear on and stuff like that. And, you know, and they were making mistakes, you know, left and right. Of course, they're going to make mistakes. They're new people. And, you know, and my buddy, he's my right hand. He helps me with traffic collection. He's been doing it almost as long as I have. And he's like, man, I can't believe how calm you are. And he said, you know, 3 years ago when we started this, you were, you know, crazy. And he said, you were in a bad mood all the time. He said, now you're nice, calm, and collective. And he said, and I know I can come talk to you about anything because you're not going to chew me out for it. I can just talk to you. So even, you know, even my coworkers have seen the change in my attitude and in my mind. And that's when you start figuring out how to talk to yourself and be positive with yourself and learn about yourself. That's when you can start thinking clear thoughts and start talking yourself out of the negative.
I know I learned over the years through listening to like Dr. Joe Vitale and Dr. Joe Dispenza, who are 2 top dogs in actually mindset and not so much meditation with Dr. Joe Vitale, but you know, the self-talk is a result of what we learned when we were growing up and how we were programmed and all that stuff. And they all say, even though they claim they have the self-talk as well. They're not saying that they were able to get rid of it. You can't really get rid of it because, as you said, all these bits of information are coming through and it's coming from experience. It doesn't really come from outside sources. It's all the experience that you have had and what you are having. And most of them are actually lies because we can't remember exactly way back what exactly happened and how, or how we developed this supposed downer talk. So you make up things because we all are built to have closure. So if we don't make something up, then the question always exists, and we don't do that. So we try to make closure. So we'll make up something to fit the lie or to solve whatever problem or belief that we want to have, and they're not true. Most of them are not true.
Right.
Somebody might say something to you, then you take it the wrong way because we're self-conscious as well, some of us, and that too will then become a lie. And just listening to audio, when those guys will tell you that you are good enough and you are deserving, and we all are, because when you think, and the creator, whoever you believe in or whatever you believe in, sure the heck didn't put us here to make us miserable. Why would, up there laughing at us because we're being like scared rabbits or something? Nonsense. They want us all to succeed, or whatever your belief is. They want you to succeed and have a good life. But they also gave us the choice to be able to be independent of ourselves or in ourselves. So whatever choices we make is going to depend on where we end up. And so it's just a matter of making different choices, and you can change your self-talk by making the different changes and like I believe you write it all down. You can change actually the back stories because they are false and create a new story. And I was trying to say Saturday, who I could remember, whose father was like a drill sergeant and very hard on the family, and it was Dr. Joe Batali who talked about that, and he is the one who said he rewrote his history, and he wrote it all down and kept rereading it, and now his dad was a wonderful father, a great example. He said now he's the Jack LaLanne, who, for those of you who don't know, Jack LaLanne was a very strong and healthy guy, and he was always working out and eating the right kinds of foods and a positive guy all the time. Well, he said that his father, Joe, now I lost his last name. He said that his dad is now like the Jack LaLanne of the family, so he's an example of health and fitness. And he probably, obviously as we get older, we mellow out too. But he rewrote his history to say that he had the best childhood, which in fact he ran away from home because of his father. And now that's what his story is to himself. All wonderful things, because why the heck would you want to run around in life thinking miserable thoughts anyway? And we're all perfectly capable of creating make-believe because we've done it since we were kids. And we believe some of the make-believe, whether they be good or bad. So why not create a good one and live that good one? Why not? You have nothing to lose, right? Except for a bad attitude and negative thought. So anyway, I wanted to kick that in there because that's what I've learned since listening to some of these people who, and they all have coaches. They have had to learn this from somewhere, whether they read it, they've been to the libraries, or they bought audios, and they still have coaches. And so they're not infallible. So it's not just us on the lower level, if I can say that, because obviously they are higher up the mental chain than we are, but it's all possible. It just starts with you, and it starts with what you want to believe and what you can create for yourself.
It is amazing how many times we project the way we feel onto others. So if we're not feeling too great, or we're not feeling too good, or we're feeling resentful, we interpret a lot of people's what they speak as a way of resentfulness yourself. So if you're feeling resentful, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling terrible, you are probably going to get that from the people when they speak to you. You know, and I've experienced a lot of times where sometimes I will think that somebody is got something against me, when in fact not that important. You know, it's like that isn't the most. It's not like that person has been thinking something against me the whole time. I always have to remind myself that deep down, people are not really that. They're not really that cynical. You know, at the end of the day, your cynicism is a result of the way that you are living. If you hang around people that are uplifting, that are encouraging, that want you to do better, that are there to give you guidance and just steer you in the right direction, if you spend a lot of time with people like that, that's the type of culture you're going to be putting out there for other people. And I have to remind myself a lot that at the end of the day, it's me that interprets what people are feeling all the time. You know, many times somebody has said to me, Dave, when you said something, were you talking directly to me? No, I wasn't. It's far from it. You really create your own environment. And you know what Pops was saying is absolutely true, is that you can interpret things one way or the other. It depends which way you want to go. And a lot of us just enjoy living in misery. Have you ever thought about that? That you actually enjoy misery? People don't think that it's something that they want to feel, because why would anybody want to feel miserable? But the truth is that misery and depression and feeling empty gives you a sense of significance. I never understood why people used to cut themselves. You know that whole thing where people cut themselves? It's because they want to feel something. They want to feel that they're alive, that there is something of importance in their life. And the same goes with us. We want to feel significant. And you have to make a decision. Are you going to feel significant in a positive way, or are you going to feel significant in a negative way? And this is what we're trying to say. Today, it's about developing habits. It's about doing something so that it becomes an autopilot. You know, I haven't had the best day ever today, but I still managed to do the things that I needed to do today because it's a habit now. It's part of who I am. I just realized something, Jamie, after you were talking. I had a hangout block where I wasn't really sure what we talk about. You know, these things that we do on Saturday when we meet together every single week, I need that. I need that stimulation in my mind on the workshop on Saturday, because it helps me and it nurtures me and it gets me going, because that's the thing that helps me think. To bounce ideas off of other people is healthy. It's something that I want to do. And what's really interesting is, even though I took a break, even though I took a break from the Saturday, I needed it more than anything, because it helped me. And that's why I'm going over the replay. I was going over the replay today, and it was just really, really encouraging. And the more I listened to it, the more I got energized, and the more I felt like I could contribute more, because I was listening to what other people had to say. And this is why it's so important to be around people like Katie, like Pops, like Jamie, because we are there to help each other out. We're there to encourage each other. And it's a habit of us, isn't it? We see each other every single week.
Yeah,
right?
no, you told me to take a week off, but I can't. I'm just so addicted to it that I can't walk away from it, you know, because that's what feeds my brain every week, you know. So, and that's what gives me ideas through the week to write blog posts and stuff on. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and you know, something that Pops was saying, you know, about the negativity and the self-talk, you know, a lot of people don't realize that you have excuses in your life, because that is how your brain works. It is designed to protect you from things that are outside your comfort zone. That's why we call it the comfort zone. You have this little space that you like to stay in all the time. And if you step outside that space, you feel uncomfortable. Well, to be successful in this industry, you have to be able to be uncomfortable, and for me, I was scared to death to do video. Why? I have no clue, but in my mind, I was scared to death to do video. As soon as I stepped outside that comfort zone and did my first video, I was like, hey, this ain't that bad. I can do this, and I think that's all somebody needs, is just to step outside that comfort zone for a minute and see what it's like. And then once you realize how easy it is, you start to grow as a person. And then once you start growing and you get a part of our workshop and you start seeing your growth. I mean, I went back a couple of weeks ago and watched the very first workshop we did. And I'm like, who's that guy? He's a wussy. Who is he? Oh, that's me. I've grown that much in 47 episodes, and the workshop helps. That's why I'm addicted to it so much.
Earl Nightingale in his program, Lead the Field, he equates comfort zone like being in a rut. And a rut is nothing more than a grave with the ends kicked out. So if you don't try to break away from your comfort zone or the rut that you're in, what do you have? You have the same old, same old, same old. And boy, that's got to be boring. And I know it's boring because I was in it. And it's crazy. And I just love doing this so much. And I missed a Saturday once. Well, actually, I had to miss a couple of them for various reasons. But the one I remember the most was Katie and I went up to Northern City where my son is at with his family and spent the weekend. And she got on the hangout. And I was unable to because, we had them over to the hotel where we were at. And, you got to hang out with family, or one of us did. And I got to be the one. And I kept looking over at her because she's on it, and we're in the same room, but we were quiet. And yeah, it was terrible just sitting there not being part of it. It was just, I missed that a lot. So we do feed on each other, and we do good with our private Facebook group. And, we throw things back and forth. So we not only see each other once a week or twice a week because of Mondays, we also get to be in contact with each other, and that's a big plus.
And just to clarify, I just wanted to say something. I know one day you met about the whole thing about self-harm, but the only reason I raised it is because my cousin was in that predicament, and it was purely because she needed some sense of significance in her life. That's all I was referring to, that we live and we need to feel significant. But the problem is we don't feel significant. And so we've got to create some way. And some people find it in alcohol. Some people find it in drugs. Some people find it in wrecking relationships. Some people find it in making relationships better. It all depends on how you're going to live your life. And the truth is, as Pops was saying, you're heading down this road. You're actually you're heading in a direction. And now you need to make a change. So you've got to set down new tracks to make a difference in your life. And it's your choice. You can either go down the route. Sorry, I get mixed up now between route and route. You can go down the direction you want to, or you can make new direction for yourself and start setting out new habits and new goals and new changes for your life so that you can be a positive reinforcement for other people. At the end of the day, it's really about what choices you want to make. And you need to wake up, you need to get a shock, you need to start realizing that you need to make a difference. And it only, I believe, happens because of our environment. It depends who you hang around with the most. And ask yourself this question, who are you hanging around with the most? And these people that you are hanging around with the most, what direction are they pointing you into? What is it that you're going? I mean, what happens when you work? Hey, Pops, you know this, right? When you're working for somebody and the conversations that get thrown back and forth at work, they really aren't helpful, are they? They are the most destructive conversations you can ever have. Oh my gosh, the stuff we talk about, winning the lottery. What would you do if? Oh man, if I had my way, what would I do? And you think of ways that you can pass the time quicker. because you're so sick of the environment you're in. And you just end up talking to somebody else and ending up in gossip and disabling conversations. The truth is that when you become an entrepreneur and you start realizing that you can make your own choices, things go uncomfortable in the beginning. You've got to make it part of who you are. I'm sure, Jamie, you know what that's like, working for somebody in the environment that surrounds you.
Oh yeah, you know, they talk about some of the crappiest things at work, you know, and half the time I don't even listen to them. I just go in my office, you know, because I have that choice. I can sit and listen and be a part of the gossip and the crap, or I can go in my office and put my headphones in and listen to something that will motivate me and make me more positive. So, and I choose to go in my office and put in my headphones all the time. You know, they can talk about whatever they want to talk about. Most of the time they want me to go to lunch with them. Well, I never go to lunch with them because I either read or I listen to an audio or a training at lunchtime. So, you know, I don't want to sit around at lunch and gossip with people I work with all day. You know, it's not productive. It doesn't help your mindset. So why do it?
And I guarantee you, Jamie, that people are listening, people are watching that. You're making a difference somewhere in somebody's life because people are noticing that you're taking different steps and you're seen as an outsider.
Right.
I mean, I've been seen as an outsider my entire life because I do things differently. I'm a really oddball when you actually get to know me as a person. I never really hung out with the cool crowd. I never did that. I was the nerd. I was the guy that was being made fun of until I grew really tall. People aren't doing that anymore. But it's true.
And, you know, make no mistake that, you know, all of this self-talk doesn't all come from you. Obviously, we've already discussed that it's influence from others, and what they say can affect you, and especially the media that you expose yourself to. That's going to implant. Even if you're in someone else's space and they have the TV on and it's the news or whatever it is, and you can hear it, you're still going to pick up on that stuff. And I know it can't be helped sometimes. You have to be at the families or whatever. Like when I would have to go, not have to, I would go to my dad's, and he always watched the news constantly. I mean, he was addicted. That was of his era. And well, I just couldn't stand it. And I timed it so that I could get there after the news, and he knew that because I vocalized why I didn't want to be there during the news, and so he understood that. And I haven't watched TV for lots of years. When my kids were small, and when I was working at the post office, we used to at break time go and play cards. There would be a group of 4 or 5 of us in the break room, and we'd play 500. If anybody knows what that is. And my friend at the time, who I hung around with the most, he knew I didn't watch TV. You know, I told him that. He didn't experience that, of course, because we never hung out that close. But when we were playing cards, these guys would always talk about TV episodes that were on the night before, their favorite episodes, and whether it be comedy or non-comedy. And I'd get this blank stare in my face. I couldn't comment. I couldn't contribute because I had no idea what they were talking about. And Mark asked me later on, told me, he says, "You really don't watch TV, do you?" I said, "No, hell no. I don't want to watch that stuff. It's terrible. Any of that stuff is just terrible. It's going to affect you to a point where, well, I couldn't watch that. Enough said. It's terrible. It'll affect you more than you know."
That's why they call it the idiot box.
That's a fact. Yep. It's crazy.
You know what's interesting? What's interesting is that now when I see something, I see things through different spectacles. So I don't see things in the same way other people do. I'm always trying to figure out the angle at which something is coming. If something's informative or something's entertaining, I'm looking at it in a different way. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, there would be a time where if I happened to catch something on my dad's and there was some headlines, you know, I could kind of look at that, and you can kind of tell the way it's going to go if you see the headlines. And you can kind of get you can get a good idea of what's happening in the world by watching the headlines, and then you don't have to watch the news people put a slant on it the way they want you to hear it. And that's the way that works. So if you get a newspaper, read the headlines and nothing else, you're better off, because at least you have some informative idea of what's happening in our world. Don't go any deeper, because I'm telling you, without naming names, there's some of them newscasters that I just could not stand, because they would put such a slant on it and they would have such an emphasis in their voice, that they're trying to influence their audience to think the way they are. And that also is human nature. So, I can't really fault them to a certain degree, where I absolutely hated them, although I didn't like them very well. That is human nature, to draw people into your way of thinking, which obviously we're trying to do that right now, but we believe it's the right way to go, because you're going to be better off rather than paying attention to all the garbage out there that's going to affect you negatively and create a negative attitude in your brain, which you can't have when you're trying to deal with other people in this type of business. You have to stay positive as you can and be as communicable as you can and be as much assistance as you can. And if somebody says something and you roll your eyes like, oh yeah, right, and they're going to pick up on that. And people just know how they're being treated. So you need to be kind of careful about that as well.
Yeah, I would, and especially if somebody is getting started in this industry, Pops. I mean, if somebody is getting started in this industry, they need to make some drastic decisions. We don't say this to scare you. We say this because it's necessary. There are too many distractions that we have in life, and too many things in life actually teach us to do certain things. I mean, if back in the old days, we used to have principles and values that we used to hold true to. But nowadays, the thing that teaches us how to be moral is the television set. The thing that teaches us how to, what is valuable and what values we stand for come from the news. It comes from the newspapers. My gran used to be a huge soap opera fan. You know how the soaps used to, man, those soaps, I think she watched The Bold and the Snobbish or whatever it was called. And man, if something wasn't going right in the family, the first thing she would think about is divorce. Like divorce is the solution. Why? Because it comes out of Days of Our Lives, or it comes out of The Bold and the Snobbish. It comes out of that. Those are where we find solutions now, because television is the things that molds our mind. It's the thing that is the new standard for us. And we are not challenged to think for ourselves anymore. The very clear distinctions between right and wrong now is so blurred that we have no real moral compass, because our teaching comes straight from the television set. And when you want to think clearly, you've got to make drastic decisions. I think that's just my thing on that. But Katie, you haven't said anything. What's up, Katie?
You guys are on fire. I'm just been sitting back and just listening to everything that you guys are saying, and you guys are awesome. Did you want to hear something about it that in my experience, as far as the head trash and negative talk and all that jazz, is that I have fell back into it recently, and I've noticed a considerable difference. I grew up with the boob tube, and it did teach me that I can save the world in my PJs. Every princess has a pet, and and all the important stuff in life. Okay, and also, so there's I've been fortunate to have a dad, Pops, to basically tell all of me and my siblings, all of us kids, that we can do anything and be anything that we want. They didn't limit us. And that was just an awesome upbringing that we've had. So my dad's always been, obviously, you guys know Pops here on this panel. He's such a positive person. He always talks positive. And that was embedded into my brain for a while, for a long, like more so than TV, I have to tell you. So, well, as I got older, you know, when you're a rebellion, you know, and like a teenager and your dad doesn't know anything and you know everything. So you just kind of like go off and do your own thing, and you got to like experience your own life. And then you realize that your pops has always been right. He's always right. And your parents are always right, right? So I come back and I get into the personal development things. The first book that I've ever read was Think and Grow Rich, and this was about 10 years ago. Actually, 2004. It's been longer than that. So 2004 was the first time I read that, and then Think and Grow Rich was my first book, and then How to Win Friends and Influence People was my second book I've ever read in personal development, and I've seriously been hooked ever since. And it's taken me a long time to get the hang of it, because yes, my dad was a positive person, but the TV did influence more, and my friends influenced more. So I gotta, you know, it did take me a while, but here's the thing. Lately, I just been kind of falling back into it for some reason, and I have to say, I think Jamie, Dave, Pops, and all the warriors out there. There's Wonder Wit. There's Joe. You know, Bob, you're awesome. I'm looking at the, you know, who's here in the comments here, and it's like everybody that I surround myself with has really kept me from going off the deep end, honestly. So I just want to say that with people that you hang around with, it's super important, because as they say, you show me your 5 friends and I'll show you your future. That's important. So if you feel guilty about saying something uplifting, motivational, or positive, or something that's a dream in front of other people, if you feel embarrassed, those are not the people that you want to hang out with. You got to be proud, okay, and get rid of those people that are like a crabs in a bucket. You guys know the crabs in the bucket story? Where you get a whole bunch of crabs in a bucket, and they all try to climb up and grab the edge of the bucket all at once, but the one crab that grabs up on the top grabs it, but then all the other crabs are trying to climb up, and they bring him down at the same time, so they never get out. So don't be a crab in a bucket. Always surround yourself with more positive people, not crabs. Yeah.
You know, and I will say something about being consistent and being there all the time. You know, the one thing that really does count is if you are going to be here all the time. There's no good being here and then not being there the next day. The one thing I have noticed, you know, and I've seen this time and time again, that people come and people go. People come and go over a 3-month period, over a 6-month period. I've seen people stick with an online business for a whole year, and then suddenly you don't hear from them again because it just gets too much. But the truth is that what we don't realize is that there are so many people out there that are watching us, that are looking at to see if we are still around. And the one thing I know is I've been doing this now for 4 years solid, 4 years successful. You know, probably another 7 years before that, failing miserably. For 4 years solid, I've been consistently doing what I'm doing, and I'm never going to stop. I don't want to stop ever. We're not saying that you can't enjoy life, but the truth is that if you're going to make some changes, it's going to be uncomfortable. There are things that are going to change. There are things that are going to feel awkward. It's like folding your arms this way and then folding it the other way. I want everybody watching is trying to do that right now. See how it feels. It feels kind of awkward. It feels kind of silly. You know, it's like doing that and then doing that. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel silly. It's going to feel weird. But the truth is that you need to go through that awkward phase before it starts feeling comfortable. And we're not saying that you can never watch a movie again, or you can never watch something on TV again. But we are saying that if you want to make a huge difference in your life, you've got to start clearing a path so that you can walk it. You can't just walk into the bushes without a path being clear. It's a good thing to have. We call it panga. What do you guys call it? We call it a panga, right? When we hit the bushes, what do you call it?
I don't know. I was going to say I actually watched a show yesterday. I watched TV for once. Guess what I watched?
What?
Tony Robbins. I'm not your guru.
Yeah, I mean you've got to, and that's a choice, right? You made that. It was an active choice of yours to watch that. Interesting. You know what's interesting about that show? If you watch, I'm not your guru. It's really a documentary about how the event goes. There isn't much about solving problems. Have you noticed that? Did you notice that when you watched it?
Yeah, and it is about how his event goes and how he talks to people and how he presents to people.
To the red shoes. Right at the beginning, guys got the red shoes. If you want to find out about that, go and watch it. It's very interesting. But yeah, we got to make real decisions. And if you're living the same life you were living 10 years ago, make some changes. Make some drastic changes. You will make a huge change if you, number one, stop taking in the media, and number two, stop making new friends. The change will be astronomical. It'll be tremendous. How does Donald Trump say? Tremendous. It'll be tremendous. When you start changing what you put in to your mind. Okay. And the other thing I want to say is, we are part of a workshop where we meet together every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we help each other with our businesses. And if you want to be a part of that, go ahead and click on the link below. You can join, get started now, and reach out to us and say, we've joined now, what must we do? And we'll give you instructions so you can be a part of the workshop, because there are some steps you need to take. And it's because we want to work with action takers. We don't want to work with people who think they want to succeed. We want to work with people who know they want to succeed. So with that being said, I'm going to go. Pops, you can say, have any last words you want to say to everybody?
Yeah, I do actually, and that would be that for those of you who have not tried to make a transition to get away from the self-talk and a more positive look, or those that are going through it and you are experiencing more negative self-talk because of it, that's totally natural, because your subconscious, which is kind of directing all that stuff, is fighting the change. That's kind of what we were talking about as well tonight. So just keep on going. Eventually the scale is going to tip, and you're going to realize all of a sudden that self-talk is going to be more positive and helpful than the negative stuff. So keep on going, because you will get there. There's just no two ways about it. The more you put good stuff in your brain and think about it and start living it, it's going to set you on your way, and you'll be, before you know it, you won't realize the biggest difference in your life. So have a good night, everybody. Glad you made it, and glad you could have us in your life. And come on and join us. We do make a difference, all of us together. That's the biggest thing. Thanks.
Jamie, you want to say something?
Yeah, no. Pops asked me something that I listened to. I couldn't remember the name of it, so I didn't say anything at the time, but it's called Hemisync. I had to Google it to remember what it was. It's called Hemisync, and the one I listened to is called Restorative Sleep. It's a meditation that takes you into a deep sleep, and I listen to it at night when I go to bed. And what they do is you take all your problems for the day and you put them in a box, and then you push them away. And they walk you through this as you're going down to a deep sleep. And they have other things like mind meditation and stuff like that too. I'm gonna put the link in the chat, so if anybody wants to check it out.
Miss Katie Stage.
Yes, the only thing that I wanted to say is that for those of you who are listening and think this is all like hokey pokey, like jokey stuff, and it doesn't work, which that's not uncommon. But like Dave was saying earlier, is that I think it was Dave who was saying it, that there is a point where you're sitting there and you're like, well, do I really want to feel like this all the time and listen to the head trash? And do I really believe this? Or am I just like been told lies. But what we want to do is, I actually want to give you a challenge, is that go ahead and we gave you some references and ideas and resources tonight, like how to win friends and influence people, which sounds like a silly title, like, okay, I got friends. But, you know, it's the title alone is, it's, you know, just read the book. It's amazing. And I just want you to go ahead and prove us wrong. That's it. So just prove us wrong. If you don't feel that you have changed in, like, let's just say 60 days, even 30 days, maybe even a week of nonstop feeding the positive stuff, you know, if you don't feel anything, then you're probably just a psychopath. That's just it. Just got to say that. Okay, back to you, studio.
So what I want to,
I just wanted to suggest that nobody try to purposely prove it wrong, because it's not worth, the prize is not worth it.
all right, guys, I want to do something that is very outside of my character. I'm going to quote something, and you'll see what I mean. I'm going to quote something out of the Bible right now, because I think it's a really good quote, and I want to say outside of my character, I mean, is that I'm going to rip something out of that. I hate doing this, but the principle still stands. And it's very, very true. And if you go to your Bible and you look at Philippians 4 verse 3, it says, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And that's straight out of the Bible. And even though I know it's out of context, the principle does stand. There's a very good reason that was said, because and it's very easy to know what isn't helpful. It's very easy to know what isn't noble and what isn't pure. Stop indulging in the things that are not helpful for your life, and start thinking about things that are helpful for your life. And it really comes about hanging around people who want the best for you. And that's why we're encouraging you to click that link, get in contact with us, and we will help you get in touch with being part of a workshop where you can be in a safe environment, where we can help you and give you an environment to grow and to become better at being a better person, being a better marketer, and being a better business owner. So that being said, we're going to say bye. We'll see you same time next week. Don't forget to see our hangouts that we have during the week. I know Jamie's got one on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know that Sonia has one at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sonia and Maria. And a whole bunch of them, which we will try and put below. You can go and visit them during the week. You have a great, great evening. We'll see you next week. It was on Wednesday. All right, with that, Madison. All right, cheers, guys. Bye.